Hello, how are you doing guys? So in today's video, we'll be going through the what's new in Python 3.12. So I'm very excited to use all these new features in the Python 3.12 and I'm waiting for the release which is supposed to be released in October 2023. In today's session, let's see what all new release highlights do we have. So I'll be going through the features one by one and let's get started. So here we have these few features which are mentioned here. Let's go in detail. So the first new feature is improved error message. So the first new feature is improved error messages, right? So currently in Python, like the error messages are not very precise. We don't exactly know what exactly the error means, right? From now on, let's say if we forgot to import some module, like let's say here we use sys.versioninfo, but we didn't import sys. So in that case, it will give a name error. It says sys is not defined, did you forget to import sys? So this way, it's a bit of interactive and easier for us to know what exactly we have done wrong, right? And also we have an improved error suggestion for the name error exception instance. Now if the name error is raised in a method and the instance has an attribute that's exactly equal to the name, then in that case it will throw an error. So in this case we have this self.bleach, right? But here we forgot to use this self.bleach here. So in that case, it will say name bleach is not defined. Did you mean self.bleach? So that means we don't have this defined anywhere. So it means that did you mean self.bleach? So this is also something very interesting. Okay. And also we have this improved syntax error. In other programming languages, we use import ABCD from XYZ. But in Python, we say from something, import something. In that case, it will give us the syntax error. It say, did you mean to use from dot import dot instead? The error message is very precise. So it's really interesting, right? So this is for the syntax error. And also if we have exception raised from the failed module, like let's say module doesn't exist. So in that case, it will throw an error like it cannot import name chain name from collection. Did you mean chain map? So that means chain map was never existed there, but this chain map was existed there. So it will give us a suggestion like in the error message. And in PEP 701, now there is a syntactic formalization of f string. So now we can nest the f string by using this double. Otherwise, we have to go through the single and double. We have to jump through all those and all the hassle. And now also in the new release, we can nest multiple f strings. But I really don't know why we would need this, as I've never used this. So this will be something interesting. I don't know if I will ever use it, but yes, it's interesting. And also before this, like we cannot use /n, but now we will be able to use /n in the f string. So this is something interesting. So in PEP 701, as a positive side effect, we'll be able to have this string, multiple strings error, and here we'll be having invalid syntax for after we forget comma. So if we forget anything, so it will suggest us. So this way we'll be able to solve the problems or errors that encountered easily. Also in PEP 709, we have something called comprehension inlining. So dictionary, list, and set comprehension are now inlined. Rather than creating a new single use function object for each execution of the comprehension, this speeds up the execution of a comprehension by up to 2 times. This is interesting, right? So inlining does result in a few visible behavior changes. So these are the behavioral changes. I'll post a link to this 3.12 release note so that you can also go through that. And also in PEP 688, they have introduced making the buffer protocol accessible in Python. Up until now, we were not able to access the buffer protocol, but now PEP 688 introduces a way to use the buffer protocol from the Python code. Classes that implement the buffer method are now usable as a buffer type. So this is also something really interesting and I would like to use it. And this is my favorite, one of the favorite, PAP 684, a power interpreter GIL. So now sub-interpreter may now be created with a unique GIL power interpreter. This allows Python programs to take full advantage of multiple CPU cores. So up until now, we were not able to use the full advantage of multiple CPU cores because we were binding on top of the C library. For further examples, how to use CAPA for sub-interpretation, which is C, we can go and see here. If you can see the example code here, we have the certain config and here we are assigning and we are taking from this PyInterpreter config GIL and from there we are able to take the PyThread state. So this is also something very interesting. Okay. And this is one of the favorite part of mine, new features related to type hints. In PEP 692, using type dict for more precise keyword arguments typing. So we can now define how the keyword argument would look like. So here we have type dict and unpack. So now we can know when we unpack the keyword arguments, we'll be able to know what exactly type it has. So in this case, it says name and year, and they are of type string and integer. Okay. And in PEP 698, they have introduced something called override decorator for the static typing. So which is very common in Java programming language. So now we see this new decorator typing.override that has been added to the typing module. So now we can say that like from this base class, we have this get color. So the spelling is color color. And in this subclass, we are extending the base class, and then we're overriding the getColor method. So here we're able to use this @override decorator, and it says override base.getColor. But here, let's say we have some bad class and it extends the base class, and we try to override the getColor, but here the color seems to be a mistake, spelling mistake. In that case, it will throw a type checker error, and it says does not override the base getColor. Okay. So now, in PEP 695 type parameter syntax, when we have generic classes and function under this PEP 484, they were declared using a verbose syntax that left the scope of the type parameter unclear and required explicit declaration of variance, right? So now it introduces a new, more compact and explicit way to create generic class and function. So here we can use this type parameter, which will make the program more generic and more prone to the type checking, right? So in addition to this PEP, it introduces a new way to declare type aliases using type statement. Here you can see it's having type, and now this point will be of type. This is a point and it's a type, and it says it's of a type tuple, float, and float. Okay. So the type aliases can also be generic. You can say type point, and it can be of generic type T. And the new syntax allows declaring type var, tuple, and param spec parameter as well as the type var. So these are the few examples. So far, we go through these different introductions in the Python 3.12. Since it's very difficult to directly go to the latest version of Python in the production, because we have to upgrade the existing code, and it will not be straightforward to use all these new features. But once this Python 3.12 will be released in stable version in October 2023, after that, I'm thinking of making more videos about that, and hope to see you there. And if I missed anything from this release note, please drop a comment so that I can reply to it and I can add more in the upcoming videos. So hope to see you there.